Welcome to the 126th episode of News Dump, where we run through the hottest topics in the Lewis County news scene and discuss. I'm local man Aaron Van Tile, joined today by Chronicle editor-in-chief Eric Schwartz and Chronicle reporter Isabel Vanderstoop. And we're joined in spirit by sponsors Summit Funding and The Roof Doctor. Do you guys have any preambles you want to get off your chest before we dive into news items?
I would like to apologize for the alarming weight loss of the print edition of the Chronicle. It started
the tall Chronicle.
Tall Chronicle has replaced Thick Chronicle as we
Sad
have temporarily changed presses, and we're now being printed by the Columbian down in Clark County.
Okay.
So it's slightly narrower, but if the reader has two papers to compare, the print area is the exact same size. You're just losing the handlebars. Mm-hmm. So if you take a pair of pliers or two pairs of pliers and open your paper with those, you can still have the handlebars.
That's true. And you can also hold it by the extra inch at the top of the paper.
Yes. If you're used to holding your paper from the left and right, try bottom and top, and you're going to find plenty of room.
You could roll it up like bottom to top, and then unroll it like a scroll as you read the news to your family.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that might be the next wave, Aaron.
Yeah,
scrolls instead of newspapers. It's just like a 12-foot ream of paper.
Well,
put on your togas, kids. It's time to read the news.
Back when the Chronicle was through our own delivery system instead of just the mail, it would be rolled up. So we could kind of figure out a way to incorporate two things here.
Yeah, like it. Anyways,
news. Shall we do some news?
Do some news.
First news item: Tenino Mayor seeks new Thurston County Commissioner position. They are expanding the Thurston County Commission, which I believe operates in a similar fashion to the Lewis County Board of Commissioners.
Currently,
Three people doing things. A friend of the podcast, Wayne Fournier, wants one of those seats.
We're going to decide because Wayne refuses to say if it's or A. So from now on, he is to be referred to as Wayne Fournier A until he picks one.
You know, I like my politicians to make a decision. I don't like all this waffling on his own name by Wayne. Waffling Wayne Fournier.
I feel like he thinks if he picks one, he's going to lose votes if somebody doesn't recognize it. Maybe there's a whole contingent of Fournier voters, and then they're like, who's the Fournier guy?
Some guy
I feel like he's just trying not to be an asshole about how people pronounce a name that's mispronounced all the time.
Pick a side.
There's some guy out in the sticks of Tenino, sees it's Fournier, and he's like, get the hell out of here, Frenchie. Anyway, he served a term on city council before running for Tenino Mayor in 2015. Tenino's budget was in the red, and the auditor had categorized the Stone City as, quote, failing when he took over. He's running as a Democrat because he is a big union guy, though I'd wager he probably falls a little closer to independent on a lot of issues.
We talked a little bit about that. I said, because he lives in Tenino in South Thurston County, the way I phrased the question was, will you run as a Republican? And he was like, I hate that question, and I don't want to align with any national party interests. That's not the point of this anyways. But I'll probably run as a Democrat. And I think said something along the lines of the independent thing has been played out here and people see through that, and it's not really it doesn't mean anything anymore, you know?
Mm-hmm. Gary Edwards, I think, commissioner, is independent, and John Snazzo was an independent for sheriff, so I get what he's saying with that. Yeah. And I thought it was interesting that he, made the pick and he goes with it. He's, of course, different. If you think of national Democrats, and it's not a criticism, he has a lot more conservative sensibilities, I would say, being from a small town in South Thurston County, and I think he knows where he's at. And, this will be all of Tenino, South Thurston. What's the area? Yeah, it starts around Tenino and then spans all the way to the rest of the southwest part of the county. So it's through to Rochester and it's all of Southwest County.
All right. He's done a pretty good job as mayor. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah, I'd say so for the most part.
A few highlights from his tenure. They started selling their poop. He befriended Blippi, the YouTube guy. There's some museums and stuff. Maybe putting a deck at the quarry pool. Lost money in an internet scam, but got it back.
And extra.
And a little more.
Yeah.
And he had his picture in the paper for plenty of good reasons.
Yeah, we don't play favorites with politicians, but I have to say that I do like Wayne. I was a younger editor back when the Tenino that you wrote about was described, and I can say it's 100% accurate. It was probably the most dysfunctional city government I've ever seen, like just for the wildest of reasons.
Yeah.
Like every headline was, different than the next. You had the mayor, rest in peace. Eric Strawn did pass away, I believe, last year.
Yeah.
But he was performing as marijuana, on the radio, stand-up comic. He was caught in a compromising position with a city employee in a city vehicle at one point. It's not funny, Okay, it's a little funny. He threw a chair at Wayne once. There was surveillance photos of him ripping up some signs and throwing them away. And that's just what I can remember. And the guy also had my cell phone, and so it was just a constant
gosh.
It was wild. And Wayne wasn't the next mayor. I think Brett Broderson, who now works for the city of Centralia, in finance, was the guy after Strawn, but Wayne definitely brought some calm to that city. Yeah. Calm and consistency.
I thought that we said well, I guess it's still predecessor.
Sure.
Just not immediate predecessor. Yeah, I say in the story, Fournier's record is not spotless, but next to Mayor Juana, he looks pretty vanilla.
Yeah. Yeah, he brought some calm. And Tenino's the hot spot for interesting stories. It always has been.
Yeah.
And he's kind of steered it. He and others, obviously, there's Tyler Whitworth up there with the chamber. There's a lot of people working hard in Tenino, but it has made it to where the headlines were all super interesting, but positive. Not a crime necessarily, but wooden money. That's pretty cool.
One of my
Remember he went scuba diving in the Quarry Pool that one time for a TV show?
Yeah. That was really cool.
He knows how to bring it. And Blippy,
And he met Jeff Goldblum that one time.
Yeah, Jeff Goldblum. The weirdest news happens in Tenino.
Yeah.
Come check out our caboose.
Yeah, come check out our caboose. Want us the best headline?
Wayne, I believe, has that on several of his dating apps as his intro.
One of my first stories that I did as a full-time reporter for the Chronicle was with Rich Edwards, the city historian, and Fournier and I spoke about that at length when we were talking about his time as mayor for this story, and just how cool it is that they care so much about the cultural history of that town. And then he was saying how he'd love to be able to bring that to the Thurston County Commission. And I'd never really thought of it the way that he said it, but he was it's taking cultural assets and making them into economic ones. And I thought that was a really cool way to put it, because it's definitely what they've done.
I think that's fantastic. I mean, if any county could do that, but Thurston County specifically has very interesting history as the capital and everything else. But it's cool. That is a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it in those terms.
All right, next item.
Wait. Wayne, not once did we mention that he is a former co-host of podcast.
Friend of the podcast.
Oh, friend of the podcast. Okay. We'll have him back on. He's welcome after election season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Legislation is back. Legislating.
It's so hot right now.
What? What was that?
That's
a sound drop I had on the board from the
Academy Award winning film.
Zoolander?
Yes.
Ever heard of it? Anyway, our first...
No, I've never heard of it.
Legislation item, State Rep Jim Walsh proposes constitutional amendment creating California-style property tax cap. This would cap your property tax, based on the amount you paid for the house, not its current value. Guys, I think I'm with Walshy Boy on this one.
It was bound to happen eventually. After years of you taking him to the woodshed.
He says in the story... Quote, my constituents constantly ask me, as well as people from all parts of Washington, why can't we have a California Proposition 13 type of property tax system in this state, he said. For years, I've explained how difficult it is to amend the Constitution, something I usually feel like he would hate, but people generally stand firm in their position. Sometimes they'll say, we copy so much of the bad stuff they do in California. Why don't we copy some of the good stuff? To be clear, none of his constituents have ever asked him this line of questioning.
No, you don't know that.
Nobody has ever come up to Jim Walsh in downtown Aberdeen and been like, Jim, We copy so much of the bad stuff they do in California.
That's not that unbelievable.
Why don't we have a film industry here?
I mean,
children can watch.
It's the first I'm reading about this this way of property tax, and as like a homeowner, it sounds incredible. Like you'd be able to actually plan for things. It'd probably be easier to pass school levies.
Yeah,
I have no knowledge of this, and I didn't write this, so this is probably worth 0%. But when I was talking to the assessor candidates, this was one of the topics that came up, and I can't remember why, but there was some reason why one of them said it wasn't like a good idea for Washington, or there was like a methodology that wouldn't, but I don't know.
There'd be
I'll
a
have to
shortfall,
find
right?
out.
You'd think there would be a shortfall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know, like, I don't know anything about how it works, although it does sound nice. I don't know.
It's the kind of thing that wouldn't pass, but looks good for a talking point when you're up for re-election by being able to say, I tried to lower everybody's property taxes across the board, but those lunatics in Olympia said no.
Necessarily, but I will admit that since it's election season and we're going to be in for this for another 12 weeks or so of you bringing up these bills and discussing them, they are statement bills. I don't think he has any, like, what's that?
Oh, you said election season, but it's okay.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Legislative session. I'm sorry. Thanks for catching that.
No, it's okay.
He's just making statements because it's a Democrat-controlled legislature, obviously, by healthy margins. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Representative Walsh probably isn't too popular with a lot of Democrats up there. So I maybe, I mean, I know he's had bipartisan legislation before, but yeah, just see you have another one coming. So I'm just being clear. This is just an idea to talk about.
If any of Jim Walsh's legislation passes this year, you will most certainly receive a press release with the quote, grown men coming up to me in the streets, tears in their eyes, saying, thank you for fixing taxes. Next Jim Walsh bill. Representative Jim Walsh introduces bill limiting restrictions on religious institutions during states of emergency. Walsh is just playing the hits early in the season. He is off to a rousing start.
We reported on so much this week, and Aaron really just chose two things.
I actually would have added this if Aaron didn't. I'm very biased. My dad's a pastor, and he's also a very reasonable guy. I'll say this, and hopefully no one takes offense. He's not a MAGA guy. He's not a, down with Inslee type of guy. But he was hurt by that. When the rollouts came with COVID-19 and I get it. That's something that resonates. You can still go get pot, but you can't go worship, even if it's even if you're taking precautions. His whole thing was I'll put 10 people in the church and we'll do the service 10 times. And couldn't even do that. So anyways, just laying down some cover fire there for the religious among us.
You hit the nail on the head on a little bit of this. But from this story, over the past 3 years, the executive branch abused the emergency powers the people of Washington granted that office. Among the most egregious were efforts to close churches, synagogues, mosques, and other religious institutions during the early months of the COVID outbreak, he said in a statement. And like you just mentioned, he took issue with the liquor and cannabis stores staying open during the pandemic.
Just from the story, that's not what he does. I'm not saying that isn't what he does. Obviously, he does. But he says, my constituents told me they were upset by that. Not I don't understand why that was the way it was.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry. Keep going.
Do you want to interrupt any more of the bits?
It's not a bit. You're just reading.
You were reading.
I know.
You were just reading he took issue with, and I just feel that's not necessarily true.
Okay. He said his constituents had an issue with liquor and cannabis stores staying open.
Correct.
Okay. That ignores the fact that you don't attend the liquor store en masse to hold hands and sing with your neighbor.
Yeah, but the optics are terrible. A lot of people thought that the pot stores were going to be closed down. A lot of people.
A lot of people are really
I know
worried.
a lot of people who invested a lot of their money into stopping by on the night before the proclamation from Inslee.
Well, and, we have never mentioned this on the podcast, but you and I do regularly walk to the liquor store holding hands and singing.
Yeah.
We're neighbors.
It's true.
He said restrictions were unconstitutional edicts and failed because people refused to follow them. I don't know how that works as a justification for just changing something. We have this rule and it failed because people didn't follow it, so we're just going to get rid of it. Is that how rules work?
I feel like every both parties love to use that when it seems like it makes sense in their argument, and then just like use it in the opposite way. You know what I mean? It's so.
I think, just my personal opinion, I think there should be some changes to emergency powers. I think you go through something as, impactful, I guess, that seems to undersell it, as the pandemic. Like, you got to learn something from it, and it's not like everything was set up perfectly. So I think, like, if you don't make some sort of change, you're missing an opportunity before we inevitably get another, declaration. So
no, I don't think any. I actually think it's pretty bipartisan that that's the case. Like, okay, now we see how this can play out in a really long level, high level, whatever, forever. And you have to make changes to it just like you do with anything that happens in state government that like maybe didn't work so great.
The spectrum of proposals, that's the issue with Republicans wanting huge changes and maybe not so much on the other side.
Yeah.
I'm going to...
all of it.
I'm going to take an early poll from the Facebook comments of the week here and read one comment on this bill. Just a reminder that this hypocrite used his white privilege to wear a Star of David when he is not Jewish, but now he wants us to believe him when he says he cares about protecting religion.
Ooh.
Maybe he was Jew-ish?
He did apologize, though. At
least. I agree. You apologize, but there's some things that you do that are so dumb that you should be smacked with them every once in a while.
Oh, I totally agree, especially when you're a politician. Like, I am totally fine with
I am also of the belief that last 3 years, and I've preached this from the podcast podium, is like grace, man. Just give everybody grace. It was a weird 3 years. Like, you and I huddled up outside the O'Blarneys watching TV. We weren't allowed to go inside in a tent. Like, I just asked Kyle McCarricker today, our chief marketing officer, to take down a video of me on the website where I'm wearing a mask over my face and like talking about the staff. Like,
you can take those things down on your own.
In any case, I don't know how to do it, so I
could teach
asked him to. It's been a weird few years, and
all right.
He still did wear a Star of David on his shirt, though, and equate himself to the Holocaust
victims. Should not have done so.
Yes.
Next news item: Lewis County prepares for a February 14th special election. No need to worry. This Valentine's Day issue is just school levies and bonds. Centralia and Evelyn have replacement levies up for up for debate? Up for
vote.
Up for vote?
Yes.
In front of the voters. That's what I was looking for. Napfine has a construction bond, and Toledo has a levy to complete its stadium project. So, nothing major news-wise, but certainly important things for the people that work for schools or maybe attend them.
I sure hope the Centralia levy is able to pass. We've had some coverage on that, and we've had coverage on Toledo, which likewise they have a dirt track, and they have to take their track. They're a very successful track team, I might add.
They do have a good track team.
They have to go, like, it's in spite of their track. Maybe that's why they're very successful.
It's like a vendetta.
Grit.
Yeah.
But, so there's that one we've reported on. Napavine construction bond we're still working on, and don't know much about the Evelyn replacement either.
How much can Eveline really do? Their school's like 150 years old and 10 kids go there.
I don't even understand how it still exists, to be honest, but I think it's awesome.
I have always said I'd love to be able to report on why it does still exist, but they try purposely not to be public, I think, with that.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
This also is happening with Toledo. They finished up their construction of the new high school last year. And I wouldn't be surprised, because they did it so economically, I wouldn't be surprised if they used the roof doctor for their quote when they made the new roof.
Oh, I sure as hell hope they did.
So you're telling me they got a free quote from the roof doctor?
You can get them for free. As many as you want, I'm told.
Did you know the roof doctor has been family-owned and roofing the Northwest since 1959?
No way.
Yeah, they have 6 great locations to serve you. Olympia, Chehalis, Tacoma, Shelton, Hoquiam, even Longview. Yes, Longview. I know you got holes in your roofs.
Don't be fooled. This is the roof doctor in that order. There are imposters out there.
You mentioned something else that we won't repeat.
I'm not going to repeat the name of a company that's piggybacking off of such a fine organization.
If you need roofing help, call the roof doctor. Their Chehalis location's number is 360-634-8255.
Nice.
Yeah, nailed it.
I was checking to see if we had a new review, and We do. Cindy S. Cindy S. That's SYNDIES. 5 stars. Keith and his whole team were so wonderful. They did a fantastic job on my roof. And if I hear of someone needing roof work, I will be telling them about Keith. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now that roof is one less worry for me, and I am so grateful.
We love Keith.
That came just before Christmas.
Great work there. Next news item. Washington legislative leaders talk pursuit laws, Blake decision ahead of a session. So state legislators might be doing some stuff with the recent law enforcement reform bills, but also maybe not, ? Senate Majority Leader Andy Billig said that while the legislature gave law enforcement too much change all at once, most of those rules have been implemented without controversy. Prompted with the statement that Lewis County Sheriff Rob Snaza has taken stances against the laws, Billig asked, does he want to reinstitute chokeholds and have military equipment?
I thought that was interesting because you haven't seen a whole lot of pushback because the law enforcement community has been relatively unified in that some of this needs to change. So not that I agree or anything. It was interesting to see some pushbacks. So.
Snaza was reached for comment and said, reinstitute?
Oh, come on.
It was too easy. House Minority Leader J.T. Wilcox from Yelm said plenty of his Democrat counterparts agree that the justice system shouldn't be the primary way to treat the drug problem.
Which I thought was really interesting and cool to hear him say, right? Like that's I think, representative of a like partisan issue being like overcome by a leader of the party, right?
Yeah, I think so.
He added the Democrats, quote, ideology is a trap, and they, I think, have to make some hard choices between ideology and effectiveness. Hell of a thing for a Republican to say on January 6th as the Republican-controlled...
just all over the place.
As the Republican-controlled U.S. House of Representatives entered its third day without a speaker. I was not using January 6th in that light.
Fine. Still.
Wow,
you just hold everything against them at large.
But like...
No, I just think it's be like, well, they need to make some choices between ideology and effectiveness and look one rung up the ladder.
I just thought it was funny.
But
and you've got Matt Gaetz voting for Trump. Come on.
He's also talking about his like cohorts in the legislature at the state level. Like it's not really relevant, but
yeah.
Anyways, I want to tell a quick story about this. I went to the pre-legislative press briefing on Thursday, and I wanted to ask about this topic because it was something they mentioned in opening statements, and I kept trying to raise my hand and was not getting called on, and then the fire alarm went off, and so we all had to evacuate the building, and therefore I was able to interview all of them about it. It was great.
So you pulled the fire alarm.
Smooth move.
Worked well.
Did everybody exit in a orderly and fast fashion? Anybody slow getting out the door?
It was a little slow. Wasn't like everybody was running, but it was all, yeah.
I also have to compliment you and Matthew Zylstra, another reporter that went up there and did coverage, looking around at everyone else's work. No offense to them, because there's some great work that came out of the AP briefing, but I thought we had the most comprehensive coverage in the state.
Oh,
I mean,
it's really cool.
You guys covered each one of the 4 panels, I guess, and we had a story on each of them, and I thought it was really good. Bob Russell, who sent an email saying the same, just that he really appreciated locally sourced legislative news.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
When the fire alarm was pulled, did anyone try to stop people from going outside and say that, you should draw your own conclusions and do your own research and not believe, the fake media about such a thing?
You live in such a macro world.
Oh, dang, what was I going to say? It was going to be good. Whatever.
All right.
I had one more legislative thing. I thought, I think it was your story. It might have been Spokesman. I'm not sure. Representative Stokesbury, I think his name is. His comment where he was like, well, if you want to make taxes less regressive, the Democrats say the sales tax is the most regressive of the taxes. So why don't you just get rid of that? It had a similar feel to why don't we adopt the California property tax?
That was in Matthew's budget one. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's what I was going to say is we had, well, unless they had like a photographer walking around the room, which they very likely could have, but we had more staffers there than Crosscut did. Like,
yeah, we staffed it.
Like it was awesome.
It was nice. Not that we've done a bad job in the past, but we haven't thrown resources at it. But we're in an interesting position at CT Publishing that it's in Nisqually Valley News, in Yelm, and the Chronicle, and the Reflector. So we have John Braun as the Senate Majority Leader from Centralia, and then we have J.T. Wilcox, the House Minority Leader from Yelm, which is where the NVN is, and then we have Linda Wilson, who's the Republican Budget Leader down at Battleground. So all of the leadership is from our papers. So it makes sense for us to cover, and I think we'll probably cover this session more so than we've covered many in the past.
It was cool also for Matthew and I, as younger bucks, to be able to meet some of the like long-standing legislative reporters from the state, or at least hear from them. And it was fun. Fun isn't like the best word, but it was interesting.
Yeah.
Look at you guys get involved in politics.
I haven't been able to debrief Nightcrawler or Jared Winselberger yet. I'm trying to transition him to Jared. He's been here long enough that I
can tell. You've made an effort.
He went to the State of the State address by Inslee today, and he went live, and I recognized immediately that he was on the floor of the House, I believe, just moving about freely with a live feed.
Which he was not allowed to do.
Yes, and
but he didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. But he called me in a hushed tone and was like 30 minutes later and was like, with security here, you might need to talk to somebody. And I was like, well, just call me back when he comes back. And he never called me back. So
I like the idea that like somehow you would be able to tell security like, no, it's okay.
it's fine. I promise you.
Mr. Schwartz, I'm sorry. I didn't know he was with you.
It's not like he was trying to put one over on him. I told him they'd probably be fine with their own press passes, but it makes sense that security would be more stringent these days and that he would need.
Did he not have a Chronicle press pass?
He did, I'm sure, but there's an actual legislature pass that you have to go get.
I'm aware,
like a lanyard thing.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure he had his regular one on. He looked the part today. My goodness.
Yeah.
Seen him.
Wear a suit?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which I think is why he was able to slip onto the floor in order to do the live video.
We're going to find out he introduced himself as State Rep Winselberger.
There have been representatives from this district that were that age.
Yeah, There have been indeed. Little Easter egg there.
Yeah,
For the Cron lineage members.
Next news item. Did he sneak onto the floor by claiming he had previously worked for like Citigroup and Goldman Sachs?
Mm-hmm. I don't get that one.
Gonna keep cramming those Santos jokes in there.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Bids are under review for East Louis County Sheriff's Office substation. Midway Underground out of Toledo has the contract for a base cost of $92,000. That bid seemed low, according to new Commissioner Scott Brummer, but Public Works Director Josh Metcalf said it checks out. It should be fine. You know, it was implied that he kind of thought the same thing initially, which I also did. I was like, no, it's steel.
Yeah, because you think like now you're like is it an outbuilding, your little mother-in-law house, or like what are we doing here?
It is basically
a she shed.
She shed. Yes.
From what I've
for the sheriff. Get it?
Yeah, the sheriff shed. That's actually really funny. I'm sorry.
They had a lot of the components available already, apparently.
Well, that's I'm like blanking on everything all day, but that's just a supposedly maybe.
The estimate? Or for the proposal?
No, that they have some of the proponents already, but it is just going to be some kind of like pole barn outbuilding situation. The whole cost for the whole place, I think, is a lot more than just the building, because they'll have to do like sewage and paving and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the internal services, or not internal services, but the capital facilities guy who was talking about this said, I think it's very possible that they already have this kind of building from an extra thing, and so they are just like looking to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Good place to keep all that military equipment.
Yeah. Sheriff Rob Snaza previously told the Chronicle that a new shop on the East End would allow the office to house boats and trucks necessary for flood rescues. on the East End while giving residents access to services they currently have to drive to Chehalis to receive. This one will look likely have a kitchen, bathroom, office, and sleeping quarters. Snaza said, "We're really looking forward to it. I just wish it would have happened sooner." He has been sheriff for how long?
Yeah, it's happening now.
I think there was difficulty getting consensus on the Board of Commissioners on like whether it was something that they wanted to just put potentially $92,000 into or put a lot into and have the potential to build it into more in the future. But I think that he and all the commissioners who he's worked with have thought for a long time that this was a good idea. And I'm not quite sure exactly why it's taken so long, but yeah.
I won't say, like, you don't know it wasn't expedited by the democratic process, so to speak, just with Tracy Murphy's candidacy and coming out and pushing it. I think it just wasn't been spoken. We all know it.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm not saying it was, but that's, like, the beauty of a tough competitor that comes in and challenges you and points out things, and so.
No, I said that even
in your story.
Not in this one, but I said in the last one that I did on it was, like, it was a hot topic in the last race, which possibly spurred some of the movement.
Yeah. Just speaks to a strong competitor.
Yeah. And I mean, 92,000 may seem like a lot, but not when you compare it to the price of buying, say, a parking lot in Chehalis.
That's true. Those are spendy.
Yeah. They cost, upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You don't remember at all.
What, 300,000? Was that what it was?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
They already own the property out there, though, like Isabel said, I believe.
So what, Keona Road, is that?
Yeah.
Between...
Kiona.
Between Packwood, Glenoma, and Randall?
It's between...
Come on, East Louis County knowledge check.
It's between Packwood and Randall. No, it's between Glenoma and Randall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite into Randall yet, I
There's
believe.
I think Keona Road, there's like that, like gas
Kiona.
station, Kiona, Kiona.
Yeah, I think
And
it's
there's
Kiona.
like a gas station there kind of along that road. I was out there for a story years and years ago.
I wonder if they'd let the Chronicle toss some sleeping bags out there next flood, because we're always looking for a place to bed down.
Some hip waders, maybe?
I think Jared and Jordan Allen, former reporter here, I don't think they slept in his van, but it was definitely discussed, like just parking the van somewhere and for the night.
Jordan's, by the way, when he says his.
Yes, Jordan's van.
You say that like Jordan had somewhere else to sleep at that point.
It's like an every night thing.
I have a fun tidbit. Mary Kiona was a Cowlitz. I'm not sure if she was Cowlitz, like the main tribe, or if it was sort of like a band or whatever. But back in the day when there were a lot of like Cowlitz natives who were living in that part of the valley, she was like, she lived to be like 110 or something like that. And so now you can read more about her at the Morton Historical Museum, and had like the most interesting life.
When you said that, I just pulled up a Chronicle Facebook post from 2018 with her photo and a bunch of information. I will share that for the News Dump listeners.
All right,
Sweet.
great.
Yeah, you should. It's really interesting history.
And our last news item before we go to a quick break, we've got an update on the PUD announcing David Plotz as the new general manager. He grew up in Chehalis and worked for Citigroup doing finance stuff. He did not claim to work for Goldman Sachs. If you're curious.
Fair enough.
His dad also worked for the PUD. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to add on that?
I was just going to say that Kiona Road is across from, like, right before Huff and Puff. That's where it is. I just looked it up. Anyways, yeah. Well, if you wanted to read more about, I promised last time that we would get some more information on David Plotz, and I was saying that I was waiting on a statement from him, and I went home that evening and I hadn't seen it, so I was like, hey, you should send that. And then I looked at my junk mail and it was there all along, which I felt really bad about. But anyways, yes, it does talk about his background and goes into more detail about his work with the PUD previously.
Not to speak to anything about Chris Roden's tenure, but it just seems like an incredible hire. And there was a Chronicle editorial board, which are rarer than they used to be, had our views about it, and just hoping they give him the time and independence to just thrive in the job. But if you look at the guy's resume and what he's doing immediately coming in, creating in this new group to take a look, like with Dave Mueller on it, a guy that I respect greatly.
And Connie Bodie.
Yes. And there was another one as well.
I can't remember his name, but he used to work for maybe Pacific County, or he used to work for another PUD.
But all that together, he's coming in, he's going to do a top-down look at everything with a former very respected manager, and his resume, it looks like he could be working just about anywhere he wants to right now, so it seems like a good deal.
All right. We are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jasek from Summit Funding. Here's what a recent client is saying about us.
Hi, this is Chad Taylor. Have you been thinking about purchasing or refinancing your current home? The team at Summit Funding is the best in class. Looking for a conventional FHA, VA, USDA, jumbo, or even a reverse mortgage? Trust the team at Summit Funding. Corley and I did, and we couldn't be happier.
Thank you to all of our past clients. If you have any questions, give us a call at 360-330-4037.
All right, we're back and hitting up segments. It's time for Tales from the Takes page, aka the opinion section. We're just gonna do this one live. What's on the opinion section?
Yeah, we'll just burn through it. We've had, we'll just do headlines. Letter to the editor. Grateful for service of local school board directors. This is from Lisa Grant, superintendent of Centralia, who writes, I would say, a quarterly letter to the editor.
But it applies to all school board directors.
It does, but she names the Centralia one specifically. But I appreciate that she uses the outlet. We met with her at one point shortly after she became superintendent to say, hey, you can always use us as a vehicle, and she does, but we offer that to everyone. She's the only one who does it. So
she drives like a car sometimes.
I do. I appreciate that. Classic.
Oh, we had a Bill Mueller commentary where he makes like an actual opinion that isn't just like a story about his life, which I love all types of those editorials, whatever. I think his columns are great, but
I think I tagged it wrong because I'm not seeing it.
But he talks about the case for abolishing the Electoral College and just talks about how it's like archaic and has a lot of really interesting points that he makes. And we don't get that from him a lot, so I thought it was cool.
I appreciated the take that, country's cool and all, but the founding fathers thought they were the only ones that should be able to pick anything. A bit snobby in his opinion. Don't take it personally, Thomas Jefferson descendants, of which there are many.
Oh, this might have been something. Oh yeah, no, I think we did mention it on the last episode. But if you haven't read it yet, Kelly Smith Johnson, the mayor of Centralia, did write about a bright future for Centralia, and it was really encouraging and sweet.
I don't know if we did talk about it, but I wrote a column like that probably like 10 years ago, probably like 7 or 8 years ago.
Well, let's dig it up.
I had a public official, so I just wrote this rosy, like, hey, Centralia, you're not as bad as people like to say, and I just went off on it. Yeah. And I had a public official message me, that was some of the most incredible satire I've ever read in the Chronicle. Nice work, Schwartz.
Oh, like, no.
Who was it?
I'm not going to say.
Was it Chad back?
It was a private
city councilor, Chad Taylor?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. But yeah, so there was that. Julie McDonald had a good column on the Northwest Sports Hub. At least I thought it was good.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Giving a shout out to a long plan that ended up working. People forget that money was at once going to be for an equestrian center, which I'm not saying wouldn't have worked, but this seems to definitely be working.
There's always shit going on over there. Yeah. I'll just leave it at that.
And that means people are spending money here.
Yeah, they are. There's people there. You know what? I bet the people that put the Nike outlet over there are just like patting themselves on the back.
Oh, yeah.
Been for months.
What if they've just been in collusion the entire time?
Maybe it was. Yeah, I'm sure Nike called Dale Pull and was like, "Hey, what if you built like an indoor?
This
could be a game changer for us, Dale."
Knowing Dale, I'm sure he called them and was like, "I want to apply for your grant programs. I know you have them."
Yeah.
One of my favorite types of letters is anytime someone writes about how Lewis County is far right and awful, we always get a letter back that just says, "Well, why don't you move?" We had one of those.
Oh yeah, and it was funny too. It was like, we'll pay for your bus fare.
Yeah.
You know what? I bet
that made me laugh at least.
It's a guy living in Vader. He's not buying anybody a bus ticket.
Yeah.
See, I respect
buy
it
himself
on
a bus ticket out of Vader.
I respect it on both ends because if you're like a Democrat living in Lewis County, you've got to get used to people's opinions that are not your own. And if you're a Lewis County person reading about that and you want to defend Lewis County, so just feel free to slug it out in our letters to the editor. And this person didn't even come close to 500 words. It was like 30. It's just like, you should move, lady.
I just thought the added "I'll pay for your bus" was the only thing that made it like stand out as funny or acceptable this time. But they say it every time.
My last one I want to highlight is Brian Mitke's commentary, which isn't really relevant anymore, but it was U.S. House gridlock is a chance for the center to lead.
We've talked about that several times on this episode.
Yeah, but I liked his comparison to the Senate Majority Coalition, which was one of the coolest things I've seen just procedurally out of state government back when Braun and the boys got 2 Democrats to caucus with the Republicans, made one of the Democrats the speaker, I believe, and then effectively were able to carry out some of their agenda for a while. It would have been cool to see that happen on the U.S. stage, and I actually think it would have been quite healing as well to see like the government actually working again. But it was a good column. I thought Mickey did a great job on it, but yeah, in the end.
He posted something on his Twitter that was like, oh, look, The Economist said the exact same thing I did about that.
Yeah, it would have been, if you like following government and government things, it would have been a cool thing to see.
Yeah.
Here's a headline I liked. Commissioner's errors with YMCA proposal costing county time, resources. I don't even need to click on it. You know what? Big fan.
I know you like it already.
I am looking forward to figuring out how much it's going to cost Lewis County.
I mean,
yeah, I'm sure. If
still hanging in the air there.
How much it
Sure, we got
might.
some friends on the hill.
yeah, I'm sure they'll.
Oh yeah, I'm sure Thurston County's going to be so sympathetic about this case.
Yeah, I know. If it makes it to any of the state agencies, they'll be sympathetic.
Just explaining like the situation to somebody, and it'd be like, oh, all he said was that the YMCA is too woke for Lewis County. Like, the Young Men's Christian Association.
I feel like if this reached Attorney General Bob Ferguson, he'd immediately imagine himself dunking over all 3 commissioners, in one of those classic bedroom posters.
It would be the like the Vince Carter dunking over a guy from Angola or whatever it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But who knows? We don't know. We'll see how it shakes out.
Yeah, anything can happen.
Remains to be seen.
We don't know.
I'm sure anybody at the state will not have a preconceived notion of the Lewis County commissioners based
Thurston
on their
County.
letters. Well, Lewis County's also. What do you mean?
You said anybody at the state, so I was
Yeah.
just saying Thurston County Superior Court is taking the case.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
But I still feel like they're going to be dunking.
I would imagine. Yeah. There was also a column, wokeness at Fed could easily create another banking crisis. I read this. I couldn't find any mention of wokeness.
That was, let's see. That was the old, I had to fill out the second opinion page, and we had access to some Heritage Foundation stuff, and I was like, hey, we'll go with this one.
Yeah, I was like, tell me more about this wokeness, expecting some like some ESG mentions or something, and nothing.
That could have been a bit of a misfire on the wokeness part. I don't know.
Was that your headline or did that come?
No,
prepackaged?
it's straight off the wire service.
Wokeness in the original, well, at least how it came out on the page, wokeness had just like a random apostrophe.
It was half
after
quoted
it,
too. There was only a quote at the end.
Right. So maybe it's possible that that was just an accident, and I shouldn't have added the other one on the front.
I added the other. Yes.
The author.
That was an error I caught. Wokeness wasn't quotes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
That's what I'm asking.
I missed the first one.
Got it.
The author, E.J. Antoni, is a senior fellow at the Committee to Unleash Prosperity. So beware, they will unleash some prosperity right in your face.
Prosperity is not something that can be unleashed. It takes time. That's like the whole point of it.
I keep my prosperity corralled behind the home.
The definition of prosperity is like generations of it get things from the action.
Sometimes I muzzle my prosperity before taking it on a walk.
I'm totally naming my next dog Prosperity so I can sick prosperity. I'm unleashing prosperity.
Anyway, People's Champion of the Week. We've got a Boys for Valley woman who celebrated her 100th birthday.
Oh my
Noreen Jones had a party Sunday at the Bafog Range with more than 100 family members and friends in attendance, one for each year of her life.
This was the craziest thing to me because it says in the long cut line, whatever, that her dad was in World War I.
Died as a result of it. Yeah.
And, yeah. This woman's alive.
Yeah.
Like, we think of these things like they're so long ago. This woman is alive, and her dad was in World War I. Like, that's nuts to me.
Got news for you, Isabel. Back when I was young, a young guy, we'd still see death notices of people dead in the 1800s. Who were born in the 1800s.
My great-grandparents were born in the 1800s.
Yeah, it's I was Brandon Hansen, friend of the pod. We were talking last night because the oldest person in the world died at 117, and we were just volleying back and forth how old she was at various points of history.
Yeah.
And I had forgotten completely that, when I was younger, you'd read obituaries and it'd be like, born in 1899.
Yeah.
It's like, it is wild.
Like I said, my great-grandparents. And here's another thing, and a testament to how old my parents and parents' have been when they started having kids. But still, my great-great-grandfather was in the Civil War. The Civil War.
Yeah, that's wild. Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother, who just passed away this last year, the good one, the Union.
Okay. Uh-huh. She says the good one, the Confederates.
Oh my God, what if? Oh, that would be horrible. You guys would have to fire me.
No. All of my relatives were on that side, so.
Anyways, my grandmother just passed away in the spring of last year, and she knew him.
That's wild.
So that's how recent the Civil War was. Like,
that is okay. That's mind blowing.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I know. I think and when I say that to people who are my age, I don't think it resonates the same way, because it's just you're not really thinking about how long ago that was. But it's crazy.
I'm sure there's people much older than us that are listening and just these young rubes. Because we had the one listener that was at a senior living home that wrote in. So obviously my 1899 born claim does not sound very cool to that person. But I'm endlessly fascinated by that.
Yeah,
just
too.
First flight to first moon landing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
What an existential thing, guys.
Damn.
You pass the joint.
It's a fake pen, and you know it.
Time, am I right?
Time is a flat circle.
It stays older.
Next one, at Youth Advocacy Center for Lewis County, lawmakers urged to support child survivors of sexual assault. This piece discusses the Lewis County Advocacy Center's request for funding from the legislature and delves into their work, which includes conducting forensic interviews with children who have been abused, assaulted, or victims of human trafficking. The work is gut-wrenching to hear about, but the center doesn't duplicate any services in Lewis County and works closely with law enforcement to provide the valuable services. Clinic coordinator Samantha Mitchell said, along with being used in court cases, the interviews help kids through the healing process and can make them feel less alone. Good nomination?
Yeah, I like that one. Not that the other one isn't worthy. Noreen Jones is worthy. But I like that one just because it was nice to learn about the Youth Advocacy Center because, by design, they run below the radar on most things. So it was nice to, not nice because you don't want to hear that these things are happening, but it was positive, I think, to let the community know all the great work they're doing.
It was also... I forgot to put this in the notes, but this story reported that, or maybe it was just in the cut lines. Either way, it was made clear to us that the center had interviewed 709 kids in Lewis County over its time working, and I don't think it's been around for decades. That's a huge number. And when Samantha Mitchell was presenting at that Cascade Health Forum, she said something like 120 kids in the last year, and that was the most they had ever done in 1 year. It's really wild. And it's one of those things we probably don't think about or don't want to think about the fact that these issues are here in our community too, but these people are thinking about it and working with these kids every day, all the time. Not every day, but a lot. And it's really important to be able to highlight their work, I think.
Yeah, they don't get appreciation for something that none of us could probably do.
Oh, absolutely.
And 99 out of 100 people in Lewis County, probably if you ask them what does the Youth Advocacy Center do, they'd have no idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, it was nice. That was an Owen Sexton story. You did a good job on that.
Yeah, definitely.
I vote for that one.
Me too.
I don't like calling this one a Sirens Banger of the Week, just straight up top.
Dagger wielding Damien arrested?
Yes.
A
Go ahead and
Centralia
run
man. This is the Sirens Banger of the Week. A Centralia man broke into a building on Tower and started jiggling doors, so the tenant called the police, who showed up and saw a man walk around a corner with a large knife, and then the man tossed the knife on the floor. The man, Damian Wilson, 22 of Centralia. I really put this on there just so we could point out that it is the Damian Wilson who is 22 of Centralia and not the Damian Wilson I went to high school with.
I think that's fair. And if an Eric Schwartz were to be arrested for the same thing, I would appreciate the separation.
Well, if another Eric Schwartz was arrested, presumably he would still be here.
Yes. True.
Anyway, not that Damian Wilson. Different Damian Wilson.
Okay.
Arrested. The knife was a double-bladed dagger with metal knuckles for a handle, which sounds kind of sick.
The knife.
The knife, yeah. Not the crime. Don't do the crime.
He tossed the knife as soon as the cop showed up, which could have saved his life based on, other interactions with police. Like if he had not done that, so that might have been the difference there. But the whole thing sounds terrifying. There's only one resident on the top floor, and he had already allegedly taken the keys that he found in a box down below and was just jiggling handles and trying to get in everywhere. So good on that resident for being able to hear that and make the call, because you never know what's going to happen.
And good for the cops to show up so quickly.
Yes, I would say that too. Did you just say something positive about the law enforcement community?
Yeah, I like Dedham.
Wow.
He's all right.
Wow. Like
just for Centralia.
Just for Centralia.
Special Centralia.
Mm-hmm. And just a little sneak preview. I have no idea what's going to come of it, but on the topic of Centralia police, K9 Sampson is supposed to be surplused this evening at the Centralia city council meeting.
They're going to take him to the groomers and...
I have no idea. It was kind of a surprising find in the agenda packet where it was just like, usually they would have a ceremony and they're not doing that.
Like a retirement ceremony.
Yeah, and Sampson's only 3 years old.
Think he bit somebody?
It's a possibility, but we're not gonna guess.
Speaking of recent events that include a knife and someone ending up dead and law enforcement in Lewis County.
This better not be another roof doctor
Sampson was the dog that got stabbed during the or not, was he?
He was the officer that was stabbed.
Oh, I thought the dog was also injured.
Yeah, that could be true.
Am I twisting that?
The officer was stabbed
I know
in
that.
the head.
No, I know that, but
you could be right. I don't know. I don't remember that part. But it could be like, I think Matthew Zylstra, our reporter downstairs, pointed out that dogs can also, and this is all conjecture, like seriously, it said they're going to surplus him. But like...
No. It's not conjecture that this is the dog that was involved in
for
when
sure.
the Centralia
I'm just saying
officer
that
was
I'm
stabbed.
jumping to the point of maybe that had a long-term effect on him or something. We don't know what the reason is, but there's a 3-year-old Centralia police dog who's been surplused, and you should keep your eyes on Cronline.com and the Chronicle to get the answers. I told Owen to walk into the city council meeting tonight and just shout out, "I want to talk to Sampson."
Oh, okay. I'm misremembering. So, I knew Officer Summers was injured, but I don't think the canine, or I'm not sure it says in the story that the canine was injured by the guy. For some reason, I thought in my head it was like that he got hurt too.
No, because Sampson was there the next day. Chad and I ran over to Providence Centralia Hospital when Summers got out, and Sampson was very thrilled to see his handler when he came out of the hospital.
Aww.
But we'll have answers on that. A little intrigue.
Do you think they have to send the dog to like a therapist?
I don't know. The dog therapist?
A psychiatrist?
We have dog court.
Yeah, could be. Like sitting on a little couch.
A
guy with his legs crossed.
Like a dog
jotting down
guardian
notes.
ad litem?
Yeah, kind of. No, just like a dog shrink.
All right.
Holding up like
Let's move along from this. There's like 8 words in the agenda packet, and we've built out this entire origin story.
Yeah, you really want to get to Facebook
and
comments
the consequences
of the week,
of what happened next too, to the dog specifically.
We'll get answers.
All right, Facebook comments of the week. On a story about sexual assault charges, the comment says they say don't judge a book by its cover, but his face is definitely in the rape genre.
Oh gosh.
That's a little much.
I hate that.
On the story about the guy arrested with the dagger, who is Damian Wilson, but not that Damian Wilson, comment says, well, if he had a cloak, he wouldn't have been caught.
What?
Dun-dun-dun.
Cloak and dagger, get it?
Oh, is that what he meant?
Yeah. Yeah. On a story about Dutch Brothers maybe hitting $1 billion in sales this year, the commenters were excited.
I like the second one.
Congratulations, you're great at ripping people off. The second comment says, I have never stopped at a coffee shop in my life, excluding Dunkin' Donuts.
That's wild. That's so weird.
Why would you comment? I'm not a big coffee guy, more of a donut guy.
No, maybe Dunkin' Donuts has great coffee.
Don't
you sell them short? But maybe it was a Dunkin' Donuts executive.
And finally, I'm not a fan of branched coffee stands. I'm a fan of locally owned, not to mention their coffee tastes like absolute dog butt shit.
Jeez, come on. I thought we had that word in our banned list.
Yeah,
No.
I realized. I realized when we were talking about Wayne Fournier, I accidentally said asshole, and I promised previously that I wouldn't curse on this podcast, and that's like borderline cursing, I think. And I mean,
not borderline. That broke the plane, as they would say in the NFL.
Anyways, listeners, please don't tell my mom. She'll be so mad.
On a historical,
you did it twice just by repeating it, so she's going to be.
This was an amend.
The first time your mom listening to this was probably like, it's okay. It was just one time, as long as she doesn't do it again.
On a historical photo of a train that says near Chehalis, one commenter said, quote, in Chehalis, who writes this crap? And then somebody commented, the picture says near Chehalis. And then the same guy says, yes, I know, that's my point. In and near are two different things. Details like that used to matter in journalism. Worth pointing out that Chehalis... I love
nothing more than random commenters telling me what journalism is. I swear to God.
Worth pointing out, Chehalis, as far as addresses go, is a massive area.
Yes.
It goes like all the way to PL on one side.
Yeah, with the zip code, yeah, for sure.
Actually, we've had way more people upset like the opposite way. Like, why would you say Chehalis for that address, or that person's from Chehalis when they aren't actually? They're from Adna. And it's like, that's an unincorporated community. And when it shows up on the post, like, it's not always going to show up exactly Adna. But I mean, I take
like criticism seriously, but sometimes it's like when you're the guy who's like putting in the extra time to find these cool history photos, like journalism used to matter? Come on. Like, I mean, I want you to find a more local every 40 minutes to an hour feed in all of America, and I will match it.
Two things. Number one, this photo is 100 years old. This is not journalism. Number two, it literally says Chehalis on the picture. Give it a rest. And finally, my favorite run of comments from the week. This is just the Chronicle reposting an ESPN clip of Marshawn Lynch's Beast Mode run 12 years ago. One commenter says, and y'all ain't done shit ever since. Sir, they won a Super Bowl 2 years later. They were in the Super Bowl the year after that. And then finally, another one. Is there anywhere else where fame is more temporary or fragile than in sports?
Wow, that's
top of the hill
deep.
One day, irrelevant the next. Again, Super Bowl win 2 years later and went on another run the year after that. Marshawn Lynch played another 7 years after that run. He retired in 2019. Marshawn Lynch was not like retired the next day.
I agree.
These guys are both morons.
I think what they're really trying to say is that they didn't think about him again themselves personally.
Well, then they're idiots.
Can we just agree that also the Seattle Seahawks should have been in the Heroes of the Week conversation? Because it's the most fun team to watch.
The Detroit Lions should have been in Heroes of the Week.
For sure. But this is my favorite Hawks team of all time. I'm not a Hawks guy.
All time.
Mind you. Oh. My favorite. They weren't supposed... Aaron, at the beginning of the season...
Aaron.
Oh, God, here we go. Here it is.
We were... Snap had not been made. There was no preseason yet. Everybody was upset. Russell Wilson was gone. What did I predict the Hawks would finish the season?
I believe... What did you say? 7-10?
Yeah, other way around. I said 10-7, and they finished 9-8. So
you did make one great call.
Yes.
Yeah.
you're welcome for the take.
Do you want to talk about your attempted correction of the sports guys the other day?
Yeah. I like to think we were both right, but yeah, duel and duel.
We were not both right. I was right. You were wrong.
But they're still dueling because there's two of them and they're doing battle. They're doing battle. Like, I feel like we're both right.
If you hadn't read the story, it makes sense that you would make the correction, but maybe you could have read the story.
I hadn't read the story. I thought for sure it was duel, D-U-E-L, because you had two teams battling, so I thought duel, but you're right. There's two teams. Duel, D-U-A-L. Yeah, the English language is stupid.
Yeah, when I had to start editing stories like that, I looked it up. I was like, why is it a duel or a duel? And then I came to a conclusion. I was like 25 at the time.
After you owned me, I tried to re-own you, so I just typed in wrestling duel my way into Google, and then, yes, I saw the wall of results were all just that I was wrong, and it said using this instead of that, and I was like, my bad. I've been losing a lot on Slack lately.
I thought you would find a picture of like two guys in wrestling singlets sword fighting or something.
No. I mean, I think a duel, I think it's guns, to be honest, so.
Paces of dawn, baby.
I kind of am interested if I'm around and available. I'm kind of interested in going, or obviously if we're covering local teams, which I guess that we probably will. I'm kind of interested in going to state wrestling because I don't.
Music to my ears.
Because I don't understand wrestling at all. I've never even watched it ever. And so when they turn in the photos on it, I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. And I feel like it'd be kind of cool to learn.
I would like to have a good presence up there. So yes, granted, no matter what's happening, you are welcome to go to the Matt Classic.
Sick.
Yeah, go cover it.
Matt Classic's a great experience. I only did it once and I never want to do it again.
Yeah, same. I went to, when I first started as sports editor, we had nobody else to cover it. So I went up there and wrote a story on it. I'd probably been on the job for 2 weeks. There's just too much going on. I was like,
it's just 2 days of literally having this feeling of your mind of I'm at this place where I need to be, but there are 5 other places where I should be right now.
Yeah, there's a ton going on at once.
It's a mind twister.
It's better now that you can get all the results instantly online. But there's a lot.
I didn't know that.
Granted, I understand football much better, but I did have so much fun covering the state football games. And I just going to those kinds of things is really cool. And you get to learn a lot and see kids doing cool stuff and it's fun and they're happy. It would be fun to learn about.
Sometimes, however, they are not happy.
That's true.
For example, if they lose a state championship in overtime or something, they're quite sad.
Yeah.
Remember when that kid yelled at Pete and asked him why he doesn't have a heart because he was taking pictures of other kids crying?
They had just lost the state football game.
Yes, yeah. I was there.
I do remember.
I believe I wrote a supplementary story for you.
Were you at that one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, I was there.
Maybe.
That Yelm 3A state championship was one of the coolest football games I've ever watched.
I don't think there's ever been a cooler high school play.
Yeah.
than ripping the ball away from the interception.
A week or two later, I was
a lot. Still.
I was taking time for a haircut, and Casey Johnson, former Adna football coach, now Raymond School District Superintendent, walked in, and we were talking about the football games, and he said the same thing pretty much. That's one of the best endings I've ever seen.
I watched that re-ending once I found it. I think it was the TNT, just to give proper credit, their sports editor. But I watched it 10 times.
You
could have watched it 10 more.
I saw it in front of my own eyes, not 20 feet away from me. It was so awesome.
It had been surreal.
It was. Yeah. I was like, no. And then, and the other kid who lost the football, he just laid there with his face down on the ground for a while.
I felt wrecked for that guy.
I know. Yeah. He was he didn't even know what had happened.
I think we ate up all the time about talking about what's in the paper. So
you mentioned the TNT sports editor. Do you want to talk about, do you want to give some proper credit to the TNT and who else might have been providing coverage of that?
Oh yeah. Pete Castor was there, of course, I think.
There you go.
Wasn't he? Did he take photos?
I can't remember.
I don't know. He didn't get the viral video though. I will throw that out there.
We didn't talk to him. I feel like we would have talked to him.
He wouldn't have talked to you.
No, but Jared would have. Jared would have gone to talk to him.
It's true.
What's in the next edition of the Chronicle?
I thought we were going to skip that. West Side Park Playground in Chehalis is getting funded, which I know there were a lot of people concerned after the Chehalis Council said, hey, I think that's more of a Chehalis Foundation thing. It's getting funded. I'll save it for the paper, but pick it up. It's getting money. We had this is not lighthearted news by any means, but there was a Centralia resident who was charged in a 2021 rape that allegedly occurred at Seminary Hill. We had the Sirens banger of the week, as you called it. That'll also be in the paper, the burglary. But it's going to be a good paper. It's shaping up to be the best of all time, is all I'm saying. And you don't want to miss it.
Don't float a boat reference out there on this edition of the paper. Come on.
It's going to be a tall boy, I'll tell you that.
What is the best in your tenure?
The best paper?
Yeah.
Probably
Flood?
you were in on it. Yeah, it was probably right when I came back from college, and you guys were in the middle of the flood of 2007.
Oh yeah.
And every paper I thought was just absolutely
all bangers all the time.
Yeah, I picked up like 6 editions from like the previous week I had been out daily at the time, and I just remember being like, man, I better learn quick.
Yeah.
Because we're right in the middle of this thing.
That's definitely got to be.
That's the flood you called in sick for, Aaron, if you recall. I know there's a lot of flooding. This is the one where you looked outside and were like, everything's surrounded by water, and you were just like, hey, boss, I'm not going to make it today.
Yes, as everybody knows, that flood lasted one afternoon, and then everything was back to normal.
Yeah, you said you were, not feeling perfect. It wasn't that you were sick. You were just kind of having a off day, hungover or something.
Not me. Yeah, and I have felt self-conscious about taking sick days ever since.
Well, working vacations and all.
Yeah. What, we have anything else we need to cover here?
That's it. I think we've gone long enough.
We're at an
like
hour.
A marathon
Let's talk about
podcast.
our favorite edition of the Chronicle this year.
I
figured
you would drop the Chronicle splash front page, it came so fast issue.
No. Though, we'll go ahead and share with the readers what I share with the newsroom quite often, and then we could kindly walk it off because I got to get home. There was the possibility during that flood that a massive 75 font headline, "A Woody Problem," was going to be published, and it was stopped right before print because people thought it might have been inappropriate. But it was referring to a large pile of logs.
The log jams, yeah.
Yes.
Was it that flood or was that the next year?
That was that flood. Took out all the bridges.
Yeah, that was that flood.
And that was part of the reason why that it got so awful for the infrastructure was they took each other out one at a time.
Coming off that warehouse
because of those logs. So it was a Woody problem. That's true.
I just remember that was, if we're talking about headlines from that era, that was one that led to consternation at deadline, and it never ran because people have dirty minds. And one of the things they teach you in journalism school is dirty minds make for clean papers.
It came so fast and Woody Problem are pretty much equal to me.
I was going to say, so you said it came so fast.
I agree. There was a shortage of dirty minds in the newsroom that day. So it made it through.
We're going to close it out there. We're sponsored by Summit Funding.
I'm not proud of this podcast.
And the Roof Doctor. Leave a review and rating on Apple Podcasts if you so desire.